The idea that we're waiting days for election results, I know 50 different states, 50 different formats here, but you'd think they'd get on the same page about counting a lot of mail-in ballots and early voting, but they don't. What do I know? I know Byron York is all over this, the Washington Examiner, and a great political read of things. Without getting into the weeds, Byron, on some of these states where they're still counting ballots, your sense of what happened yesterday?
Well, the big picture is the one change that almost everybody predicted was that Republicans would take over the House. And it appears that they are going to take over the House by a much smaller margin than many people had thought, but it appears they'll take over the House. And that is a momentous change that's going to happen in Washington, the biggest change being if President Biden has a legislative agenda for the second half of its term, it's dead. Not going to happen. So that's a big deal. As far as the Senate is concerned, I really think Republicans and almost everybody in the political world need to look at themselves and try to figure out why they thought some of the candidates that they thought would win would win. There was growing confidence that Dr. Oz would win in Pennsylvania. There was a lot of confidence growing that Don Bolduc might pull off a big upset in New Hampshire. There was confidence that Blake Masters could win in Arizona. And none of those things happened. Herschel Walker is just hanging on by a thread. There's going to be a runoff in Georgia. So Republicans need to look at themselves, how they chose their candidates, how they dismissed the appeal of some Democratic arguments, and perhaps take that more seriously next time.
You know, Byron, I agree with you, and you should run the other way. That we're kind of going to what we thought the script would be a month ago, right? I mean, that the Republicans would take the House. I don't know what by margin, maybe a little less to your point than thought, but again, considering the 17 seats they gained 2 years ago, it's not a bad haul over the 2 election cycles. Having said that, though, does it have them reconfiguring 2024 and maybe the appeal of Donald Trump? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this really is a major development in 2024 on the Republican side. The big development being the really big, impressive victory of the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, who's coming off, whatever he decides to do, if he decides to run in 2024, he's coming off a big victory, a dominant victory, second term re-election in Florida. That puts him in a very strong position. Obviously, we saw in the last few days of the campaign tensions between former President Trump and DeSantis, in which Trump kind of tried out a new name for DeSantis, Ron DeSanctimonious. Didn't really work. A lot of negative reaction in the Republican world. Trump didn't do that again. And then on the night of the election, or before the election, Trump gives an interview with reporters and says, you know, I know a lot of bad things about Ron DeSantis. If he runs, I'll have to tell you some very unflattering things.
Just incredible.
You know, extraordinary. This is going to have to be resolved somehow, and it might not be very pretty.
Real quickly on that point, Byron, the former president had said, I'm paraphrasing here, that it would be very disloyal if he were to run for president for any other Republican to do the same. I don't think that's going to carry much weight.
No, it's not unusual, I think, to hear President Trump say this. I mean, who wants competition? But if he had his way, the former president would like to run in the Republican primaries as the incumbent president. And you don't challenge incumbent presidents, but he's not the incumbent president. And I think that this victory with Ron DeSantis would be very encouraging for him to go ahead and try, because if he sits out 4 more years, he'll be a former governor of Florida. Who knows what can happen? He's a very strong position right now.
Yeah, you got to seize your moment. All right, thank you, Byron York. Always good chatting with you, my friend.